Awesome. While people are trickling in, I do want to call out what is on our screen right now. We have a really, really exciting event. Reimagine has been so much fun to be a part of for the past few years. And every year it just gets better and better. And the events that our marketing team plans surrounding it, the speakers that they get to come, we have Gary Vee, Lisa Landsman from Google will be there. We have Kelly Ryan from OpenAI. The topics just get more and more interesting. I don't know if it can be attended virtually. That is a great
Hmm.
question in the chat. I'm going to leave that up to our marketing friend in the room to answer because I don't know. But I will say if you can make it in person, my God, it is so much fun. Um, Mike and I are almost always speakers in some way. We have breakout sessions where we're speaking. I do have a main stage presentation on this one, so I actually think I'm the last speaker of the event. So I get to close it out for all of you, but um, yeah, highly recommend checking it out, attending. We would love to have you there. And yeah, I think let's jump in. It looks like we got a good guest list today. So you want to kick
Um,
it off, Mike?
sure. First of all, for those who have been watching us for a while, thank you for joining. This is officially our 1 year anniversary for the SEO Juice. We started last June. I think our goal in doing this really was to bring a different perspective from the SEO community. There's a lot of amazing SEOs out there, local SEOs out there, but a lot of them work with small to medium business, not big enterprise businesses. So it gives us a unique view into performance, into what works, what doesn't work. And also, I think our other goal was to really demystify a lot what SEO is, a lot of what SEO is, especially local SEO. I think SEO, if you think about all SEO, is can be very complicated, especially when you get into technical site SEO. Local can be a lot simpler because a lot of it is driven by the Google profile, the things Google look for on page. Yes, those things still apply, but trying to get to those little kernels of things that drive traffic, that drive engagement the most are the things we try and break down and make them as easy to digest as possible. And I think we're going to do that again today, hopefully. But again, just want to thank you all for, taking the time. And I think there's even maybe a question while we go through a couple things around though how long people may have been joining us. I don't know, Danielle, if you have that.
We have it.
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Having technical difficulties.
That's
Not
fine.
always. We don't need
There
to.
we go.
There it is. Yeah, we want to know how long you guys have been with us. I think I can speak for Mike when I say that hosting this every month is probably one of the favorite parts of our jobs. Getting to kind of dig in and just nerd out with everybody for 45 minutes to an hour. Is just it's really fun. I don't think a lot of people get to say that they love what they do every day, but I genuinely love what I do every day. And Mike, I feel like you probably feel the same. So it's
Yeah.
really cool to get to do this. And then I'll stop being sappy. I would love to see
Yeah.
the poll results
If,
here in a moment.
if you have talked to Casey and I separately on customer meetings, we love to nerd out on this stuff. It helps I'm a very creative but also analytical person, so it scratches both itches. It itches because SEO is very analytical, but also this strategy can be incredibly creative, and so I love nerding out on this stuff. So I'm curious, what are the results? First time, wow, we've had a lot joined along the way. A couple have been here since the beginning. I love that.
I love that we have 10 first timers here today too. Welcome, welcome. And then 6 OGs. This is really cool. Thank you guys for joining us and hanging out.
Yeah, and for those who are joining us for the first time, if you're interested in what we've done previously, oh, well, let's introduce ourselves first.
Yeah. Hi. My name is Casey McBride. I am the Senior Director of Strategic Consulting at SOCi. With that role, I have the privilege of managing our SEO, social media, and data analyst teams that support our customer base. I have been working I lean heavily into SEO. I've been working in SEO for like 10, 11 years at this point, starting out in like single brand, total site SEO, and then just finding my way into local. And so yeah, nice to meet the newcomers.
Yes, and I'm Mike Snow. I am the local SEO enablement manager here at SOCi, or as I also like to joke, the local SEO evangelist, because SEO never ends. My background officially in SEO is about 5 years now, but before that, over a decade ago, I launched a couple sites and didn't know, like, title tag, it doesn't appear on the screen. That's not important, but why am I not showing up in Google? So I kind of taught myself a little bit of that, and it's come a long way, and now we talk about everything. Now I understand what that means and explain that to others. So very happy that you're all joining us today. And for those who are joining us for the first time or are joined recently, you can watch older SEO Juice webinars. We have all of them from the last year up there, either on SOCi University. So if you're a customer, you can see them on SOCi University. If you're non-customer and you want to go back, we also have a section there where we have those kept. We try and make them as fun as possible. We try and demystify things. The last 2 months, we talked a lot about AI and how especially ChatGPT is looking at information. And what are some of the other, we jump in there. There are a lot of topics we covered.
I think some of the really great recent topics were definitely around AI search. And then I believe you and Kelly had a pretty good one around the relationship with social too, that I would definitely recommend checking out. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
And
whole lot.
speaking of that crossover between search and social, I'm going to promote one more one more on-demand thing, which is one that Casey, you did. Was it last week? With Kelly?
Yeah, so Kelly is the Mike Snow counterpart on my team that manages social media and insights in social media and strategies there. And we actually did a shared webinar, I think it was last week, that is available to anybody to view, and highly recommend. It was a really great discussion with Kelly. We talked literally about where is your search demand going. It's just because traffic is maybe down on Google doesn't mean those people disappeared. They are having different behaviors and different intentions in social media, different behaviors and different intentions in AI. We talk a bit about that and then what you can do about it. So this was a really, really great discussion that we would love for you guys to check out.
So leave that for a minute. And one thing I will say, when you go to these links, especially this link here, you'll be able to get this deck as well. So if you were able to catch that, didn't catch this, want to go back to something, all of those presentations and also relevant links. Danielle, who is the marketing voice that's on the call, does a great job of getting these up, getting all the elements together, so you have access to everything. So moving on, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so we are going to hit on what we've done this past year and kind of revisit some of the concepts that we've been talking about for a while and where they fall today and kind of how did we do? And then that's going to lead us into a riveting discussion around customer search behavior and some of the conclusions we draw from there. I'm going to jump in with just some quick topic around brand versus non-brand traffic and measuring success and kind of who's responsible for it at the end of the day. It has actually been a big topic of discussion lately with a lot of our customers. And so I feel like talking about it to the masses would be helpful. We'll get into what's happening in the industry. And then I always love when Mike talks through what he finds in the wild as he is searching around and occasionally breaks Google. And it's always very interesting. So let's dive in.
And for those who've been on before, you might notice the one thing that is missing is new categories and attributes. Quiet month. Google has released exactly 4 new categories this year, and attributes have been slight last month. So decided to take that off for this month. So jumping in, our first part of a year in review and how we did. I want to say one of the reasons I want to talk about this and we wanted to cover this is I think we're really proud of the topics we chose to cover and the not so inaccurate prognostications that we've made over the course of the year. For those who know about local SEO, there really is no guidebook. Google gives a couple recommendations. The industry, based on observation and experimentation, comes up with what they think are the most important things to focus on. No one really knows anything. Everything that's out there is based on speculation, based on observation. And so, like we said, a lot of those things are based on small to medium businesses. We look at a lot more bigger enterprise businesses. Few have that. So that's why we were really excited to do this. And looking back, I'm going to go through a couple slides that we put together in the very first SEO Juice, and most of those had life beyond that and a story beyond that. And some of those things we talked about started to actually overlap with each other. And I thought it's really interesting to talk about, not just to pat ourselves on the back, but also just to kind of let you know that you're not wasting your time with us, I guess. Like these things that we're seeing, they're out there, right? And so with no further ado, I'm going to go into some of that. And it's not to say that we're hugely knowledgeable in some way that others aren't. There's technical SEOs out there like the Mike Kings, the Rand Fishkins, people that blow us away when it comes to those real technical algorithm leaks, things like that. And speaking of leaks, this is actually one of the first stories. I know Casey, you wrote about this when it came out and dove
Yeah,
into it.
man. I remember when this one came out, and I think I spent an entire day navigating through Mike King's findings and the partnership with Rand Fishkin. And, I think since this occurred, there are definitely some themes even that carry forward. So, one of the big things we talked about was brand authority. I feel like since this leak, and even before this leak, we've talked so much about brand authority. It comes down to relevance in search. It's what Google cares about, but now it's not just what Google cares about. It's about what entities care about in general. And so I think this advice still really stands. Building notable, popular, well-recognized brand in your space outside of Google search. So it's really important to have your website well optimized and your business listings well optimized, but that is not the end all be all anymore, not just for showing up in search algorithms, but AI and showing up in social. And this whole ecosystem that is now built, I feel like has just blown up since we talked about this almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's
but
funny because I referenced this yesterday in a conversation with another customer who, or actually it was just with another CSM. We were talking about one of their customers. And when we looked at their Google Insights, we noticed that their, usually brand is always at the top and their brand searches were at the top, but they weren't huge.
mhm.
And I kind of realized that Google is looking, I think Google is doing two different things, right? They're looking at, they want to promote local brands. They talk about that a lot, but they also want to promote recognized brands that people click on. And I feel like if you're a new emerging brand, you have to do a lot of work to catch up because
Yeah.
Google's kind of leaving you behind a little bit.
Yeah. Or even a brand that has existed for a while, but is breaking into a new market. You have to build up that authority. And I think one of the best ways anymore to build up that authority, obviously having a really good on-page SEO strategy, being well optimized, maybe even having like a sub page or a sub listing if it is a true like department extension. But it is kind of that cross-contamination with other marketing arenas. So social media is huge, 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 so important. Make sure if you are getting into a new market or you're expanding your offering into something new that you don't previously have authority for, you're building up your presentation in social for sure. You're talking about it there. But also, you might want to partner with some of your other internal marketing partners. We're seeing an immense amount of references come from local blogs and like things like Reddit, and Yelp is popping up more and more, especially in AI search. And so really just kind of diversifying where you are, not just in like citations, but in like true kind of marketing arenas is what you have to do if you expand. It's not enough just to mention it on your website.
Um, the clicks, I think, is another thing that I think everyone assumed, but seeing it in the leak validated a lot of things I think we were already seeing and things we actually mentioned in the very first SEO webinar, like for instance, shifts in local pack voice.
Yeah, and man, has this just continued. I think we have been noticing for a while that local packs are decreasing. We're seeing them less and less in traditional search results. That is a huge reason why if anyone is looking at their reporting around search impressions for their Google business profile, it's down year over year. I don't know any customers. I think I ran into one unicorn of a customer recently where I was just shocked that their search impressions were green year over year. And a big reason for this is we're just seeing business listings less and less in search results. Um, Now, there are a lot of different things that come into play here as why that might be, but SOCi data actually has shown, I think we found that in 2024 compared to 2023, and I'm really afraid I'm going to misquote a stat here, but I believe it's down like 11 to 12% on the year
Right.
from a search impression visibility standpoint. And then when you look at like specific industries, the ones that we've seen lose a decent amount of visibility are the financial services industry. I think that one was down like 14%, something like that. And so not to scare anybody, that's just your search impression. Again, like those customers still exist. It's just where they are now, that business listing in traditional search results is just continuing to decline. Go ahead,
And I
Mike.
think a lot of it's related to clicks too.
Yeah.
Google, your point, for years, Google's been putting out local packs for everything. And I think, especially as they have more and more new features, they need more and more space. So if people aren't typically clicking on a local pack for a specific term, and it's more organic based where they're clicking on web pages for more information rather than listings, it makes sense that Google would get rid of it, right? Because
Yeah.
I also see in that decline, I don't necessarily see the same decline in maps or in impression, or I mean in actions. And that means those are not important impressions
So
potentially.
yeah, if you think about it, like the maps impressions not necessarily declining is a testament to like local search is still occurring and it is happening. It's just shifting a bit. And when we think about search impressions and why that may be declining, you know, I think for a long time, local packs were like the cool kid, in the search results. Oh, and we just got a great question. What does local pack mean? So if you go to google.com and you search for, pizza shop near me, the local pack is what shows up in traditional search results. It's usually called like a 3-pack, but I avoid calling it that because we've seen a number of pack types in search results, not just 3. But it's like that card that appears in search results that has your businesses listed.
And the
Um,
map. Yeah.
and then a map usually that shows up next to it. And so for a long time, that was like the cool kid, right? Like it showed up in search regardless of what you searched. It was like the primary feature that Google was rolling out. That's not really the case anymore. We're seeing like offer and events, we're seeing social media posts, we're seeing obviously AI overviews, we're seeing Google prompt you to go to AI mode. There's so many cool features and things that Google's trying to integrate into its search results that local packs are not really the cool thing anymore to get that visibility and to opt users into using that like traditional search environment. But local search still exists because maps.google.com and Google Maps behaviors are increasing. So it's just kind of a general change in where you're getting your visibility.
Another thing I think is related to clicks that we talked about, and we don't have to spend much time on it because we talked about this a lot, are these unrelated map pins. For those who don't know what this is, if you've done any kind of Google search or map search, and you might be, this is a good example, I search for Walmart and you see all these other places showing up. And I think Google's never said why this is, but these are captured. They don't always convert. You might see like your let's say an apartment, a property, and you all of a sudden see restaurants show up and there's like an extra 100,000 views. Google, maybe there's a lot of deliveries going to your place and people are looking for a lot of restaurants and people are then going there and then Google sees their clicks, so they add you to that for a while. Or I think clicks drive a lot of that because we'll see a jump up and a jump down. It's Google trying things out. Hey, you're being selected a lot, or people tend to go to the hardware store after going to this place or whatever that might be can drive a lot of this. But
Yeah, and I actually had an anecdote on this I was talking to Mike about before the webinar started. For a long time, and I've even had customers ask me this before too, why is Google doing this? Like, why am I getting these, hundreds of thousands of impressions for airport or restaurant or whatever? Like, I sell tires. Like, why is this happening? Right? And for a while, I'm just like, I don't know, man, Google's just doing what it's gonna do. And then I had this kind of epiphany moment, and arguably I probably should have had this a lot sooner, months ago. But I was away with my family in like middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, like in the woods. I don't even know how I had cell service. And we were having some car troubles, and so I pulled up like an auto parts store. But then we were in this cool small town that like we had never heard of before. We didn't know what was around. And so even though my search was like auto parts store, I'm zooming in on the map, I'm moving around, I'm seeing like, oh, there's a brewery up the street. I can go to this antique store. We can go grab lunch here. I didn't click on any of those businesses, but I did visit a lot of them. My intention was to explore. And so I think in a lot of ways, even though I was searching for like a very non-exploration type of business, right? Like I had a very specific need, it still prompted my behavior. Like I meant to look at unrelated businesses.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's kind of Google's answer to that, right? Like it might not seem obvious that your business should appear for some of these unrelated searches. And arguably, you probably aren't getting traditional leads for it. People aren't clicking on your listing. They aren't calling you. They aren't requesting directions, but they see you and they may still be visiting you as a result of that impression.
All right, so I'm gonna go through the last two a little quickly because I want to get to the meat of this. But a couple other things we talked about. I've talked about this almost every month, so I'm not going to spend time here. But offer an event post, we've seen a big evolution over the course of the year. Google even announced, and we talked about this last month, they're starting to show them directly again on the listings in a new area. For small to medium businesses right now, it should be moving to enterprise and bigger brands soon, and we'll obviously let you know when that happens. But it's interesting because just before the June one, I think in March last year, there was a big article saying like, oh, posts are dead. Like there's so many posts are dead articles that have come out even since this. And then we had Ben Fisher in April come to one of our coffee chats and basically said, yeah, we talked to the developers. They're expanding, like they're not going away. We've seen all the ways it's expanding. So definitely be taking advantage of that. Social media links, another thing no one's really talking. I don't even think still people are talking a lot about social media and the importance it has in SEO and Google search. But for those who joined last month, I went over the webinar that we did in the case study. So you got to hear some of that. Social, obviously a big piece of this. I even had a really great conversation with one of our customers. They were a taco Mexican restaurant chain, quick service restaurant. And they had keywords coming in for Chipotle because they're kind of very similar to that. And I thought, I wasn't sure why that was. And they said, yeah, right now on social media, there's a big push where people are tagging us and saying, hey, they're just like Chipotle, but better. That's happening on social media, but we saw their keywords for it go up like 10,000 in the course of a month in search in the Google impressions. So that shows me that there's a lot, what's going on social absolutely is affecting what's going on in there. And it's something we need to look into a little more because I think it's a really great case study.
Well, and actually, I think Instagram just announced that search engines will, and I'm sorry, I'm totally going to misquote this, but that starting like July 10th or something like that, their content and videos and things like that are going to be fully open for search engines to crawl. And so like for brands, this is huge. I mean, we've seen social results, like you see it here, pop up in search results, but Instagram is like talking about this openly now. Like Instagram has announced like, this is going to occur. This content is going to be factored into how you appear in search results. So that was also a very interesting thing to see.
Something definitely I want to follow. I didn't really write up about it because we see it in Google, but I'm really interested to see where else this appears and something we'll probably talk about more as we see that.
Absolutely.
Lastly, this leads into our next topic of conversation. One of the things we covered, and I'd been talking about this, we'd been talking about this a little bit before even this session, but this kind of coincided, is this idea of optimizing for customer choice, understanding what customers are looking for in choosing a business when they do a search. Near Media did this great study last year, and I think they're continuing to do it. People pay a lot of money for these studies. I don't know that it needs to be as complicated, not to diminish what they do. I think they do a very, yes, when you want a lot of information, they're going to get it for you. But I think at a high level, none of this surprised me, right? When you go to a restaurant, you want it to be well rated and have the food you like, right? If you're looking for a doctor, you want to make sure that they're well rated and you feel like you can talk to them, right? And that they're going to not talk down to you. Like all of this stuff makes sense. Storage, I want to not pay a lot and I don't want to have to drive far. And so I want to talk about this a little more because this is more as relevant as ever. These, if you follow a lot of SEOs in the industry, we're not the only ones saying this. They're all saying this now as search becomes more refined. You have to make sure you're the one being picked. And so I want to start off with a little test, a little Q&A. I did this in alphabetical, so I'm not trying to, make you think one's better than the other. But this idea of I'd love for you, and if we could put up the poll, let us know the kind of the top three things you tend to look at. Is it availability? The place has the item or service I'm looking for. It's open, right? Convenience. Is it the nearest, closest to home, near other errands, etc.? Are you picking on them because they have expertise? They have pictures that show that they're good at what they do because it's an experience, or posts that talk about what they've done for people. Familiarity, like I've heard of this brand. Maybe I haven't checked this brand out yet, but I've heard of them, and so maybe I'm going to click on them. Incentives can save me money. This is always a great one. Everyone wants to save a few bucks. Rank, is it because it's in the local pack or it's the highest rated? Or reputation, has a high star rating, volume reviews, is it followed, liked, whatever that might be. I'd love to know what some of your top three, and of course this changes depending on what you're looking for, right? What looking for in a convenience store may be different than a doctor, hopefully. But we tend to know those things we lean on, and I just love to get your opinion on this before we go into those things. What about you, Casey? What do you tend to lean into here?
Oh, yeah. I feel like I do a lot of like brand recall. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I am a big doom scroll on social media kind of person. I paid I am always targeted by like paid social media ads and things like that. And even if I don't like convert as a result of that ad, brand recall for me is huge. And so if I'm like looking at surrounding areas, if I'm in a new city, if I'm whatever, I might see a restaurant or, a store or something like that. And I'm like, I've heard of that. I didn't realize that it's in this location. I'm going to check it out. Yep, I see another recall girly in the chat. So I feel like that happens to me all the time. Or honestly, even like I might see something on a billboard and that sounds so like archaic, but truly, like if I have seen it before, it's almost like I have some bias in my brain where I'm like, oh, it must be good. I've heard of this before.
I definitely, reputation's big for me. Saving money is always nice.
Yeah.
Convenience. I could say, and I don't like to have to drive far. I'm in LA, so driving far kind of sucks. So I'm looking for something that's that way. So let's see.
Yep.
This is really,
You are in shared company with convenience, it appears.
yeah. And reputation, the two I said. Availability, expertise, familiarity. Oh, this is great. I love seeing this because it's really interesting. I have my own biases in what I think. Some of it's exactly what I expected and some of it's not. So thank you for taking part in this. So let's talk about understanding customer search behavior. I'm going to give you my opinion on this a little bit because I think everyone has their own opinion. I think we generate an opinion. I think we all kind of have some of the same ideas of what works and what doesn't because we know what works for us and we know what we have family and friends. We know how they search. We know what works for them. We know what they tend to look for. So I was going to kind of frame this conversation around my completely anecdotal conclusions on customer search behavior. I have a couple of those, but I think hopefully it opens up a conversation and simplifies some of the ideas that we're talking about. One of my ones that we talked about, Casey, your brand bias is the idea that people want to choose local business and service providers, but often give preference to local brands. So I'll give you some really great examples of this. A gym. Do you tend to want to go for the chain gyms or the weird gym in the corner that's kind of looks dusty? You don't know what the inside's going to look like, or if they're going to be lots of like yelling people or whatever,
I'm gonna be honest, gym for me is like a big recall moment. I have a lot of, well, actually like peer approval too, I feel like is huge for gyms.
Yeah.
Like I will be far more interested in trying out an interesting type of gym or like a bar class or a spin class or whatever if my friends have gone and mention that it's something that they do, or if it's something that I see a lot of, or I see somebody posting about it on social media, that's like a big prompt for me. So, but they are usually chains. They're usually like franchise type gyms. They're not just like mom and pop gyms.
Our money manager. How about this one? Are you gonna money manager that's attached to a brand that you feel might be able to back you if things go sour, or some random person?
It's gonna be a big, big, big brand.
A bank. Are you going to want to go with a bank that is going to back you, or a bank that you think might go out of business?
One thing I will say, so like for my general banking, I feel like big brand, right? But like regional community banks for like financing a car, and things like that. Like that's,
Okay, that's
you know what I mean? It feels a
yep.
little more
Mhm.
like reliable, like price wise. I almost feel like I'm going to get a better deal.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, with all these, I think things matter. I think my point, I guess, with some of these fast food, here's one. You're going to try a new fast food restaurant. Are you going to try one you've never heard of or someone else? Like, if I'm going to go to fast food, I'm probably going to go to a brand. There's in LA, there's a lot of weird off-brand like taco stands. Like there's Alberto, like there's a whole bunch. And I'm always afraid, like I want to go to the one that I know that's like a real brand.
I have an anecdote, and I encourage everybody to Google this because it's actually so funny. There's lore in Pittsburgh. If anybody is from Pittsburgh or familiar with Pittsburgh, there was a Burger King in the south side of Pittsburgh that was not owned by Burger King. It was like
Mm.
an old Burger King that somebody had taken over and they just kept the name Burger King. They even had like a menu from Burger King that
Oh,
they
wow.
never changed. And so people all the time would drive up to this Burger King, order at the menu, think they're getting a Whopper, and then just get like an unbranded brown paper bag of a double cheeseburger or something that was clearly not Burger King. It's like one of the craziest Pittsburgh lore stories. And this went on for like years. I actually lived right up the street from it and never realized it wasn't a real Burger King.
Kind of
It's
reminds me of Coming to America, the McDowell's. Like, there's already a marketing plan. There's already all this stuff. I'm just going to reuse that.
it's nuts. It's absolutely insane. And then eventually one day it just like shut down. But it had a good run.
So yeah, so the reason I guess I kind of started with this is that I feel like there's already a bit of a bias where customers want to pick your brand, right? Like I think so the reason I say that is in relation to customer choice optimization is make support that choice, right? If they are looking, let's say I'm looking for again fast food, or let's say fast food, let's say a new bank or something, or gym, let's say. And you're a brand and there's a local one. If I can't see what's going on, if I don't see a deal, if I don't see something that's going to maybe take my business, maybe I will look at something else. I think there's this idea that you have a bit of a bias, take advantage of that potentially, is I think what we're saying there. Um, Going on to another one, people are more likely to select a business if there are pictures that give them a good idea what to expect from them. I would say that for all of these, it's the same. Even a money manager, like think about the fact, like, wouldn't it be good to see the person that you might be working with or them with other people that help them out or in front with people they helped buy a house or a car or, something that just shows some more information. And like I try and apply those pictures to everyone because we like to see who we're working with, what's going on. For a bank, maybe just even having pictures of where your ATM is, right? Knowing that people have a safe place to go to get their money. Fast food pictures are good, right? Gyms. But other places, things like apartments, right? Like knowing the place that I want to look at has the amenities. If I'm looking at a place and I can see them right away, I'm more likely to engage with that rather than another place that I have to do a little more research on, right? Or take a lot more clicks on. Kids programs and activities, Casey, like where would you take your kids to go play? The one that has the nice full field or the empty field with leaves blowing across it, nothing going on?
Yeah, so I actually had to choose. So this was I'm trying to find like a preschool slash daycare. I have very young kids, so they're even like a little too young for preschool, but trying to find that. And it was a huge factor in my decision making.
Mm,
For me, it was all about like, what does it look like? What am I working with? What kind of like outdoor play set do they have? What kind of inside? Like, does it look legitimate? Does it look clean? Does it look like someplace I would feel safe sending my kids? An
right.
ungodly amount of even like franchise, like brand type locations had no photos. And I'm like, I can't trust you. I don't trust you. And then the other big factor for me, honestly, was proximity because I wanted to be able
Of
to
course.
go somewhere really close. I can't drive 45 minutes to go pick my kid up. I want it to be right up the street. But yeah, very important.
Yeah, and obviously reputation and all those things that we normally think of are obviously important. And this is just a lot of these things I'm looking at here, just for those listening, or to look at those things we don't think about as much and we don't put as much effort into. Photos, I feel like, is one area not enough brands put enough effort into, and there's so much opportunity there. It's such a big conversion. I tend to make a lot of my decisions based on are they putting photos up? Can I see what's gonna I'm not looking for like a complete overall picture of every little nook and cranny, but just knowing that, oh, I see that people go there. I see that the place is clean, that it's a real place. Like those kinds of things, I think help drive my decision making for the most part. And
100%.
especially as I'm doing a lot of remodeling and things around my home. And when I'm looking at, home services, things like, painting,
Yes.
plumbers, contractors, I want to see work that's been done. And I don't want to see stock photos of work that's been done. You can kind of tell the difference. But there are so few in the home services that actually post photos to their Google business profile.
We got our home repainted a few years ago, and it was a huge decision factor for me. This guy does a really great job putting up his before and after work on his Facebook page.
Oh, I love that.
That's actually how I found him. Was just all of these things that he was uploading of his before and after. I'm like, oh, he's good.
Right.
And he was also very affordable. So
Well, there you go. And that goes into my next one. I mean, we didn't get a lot of clicks on it, may not be the top 3 decision, but everybody likes to save money. And, all of those same ones, I could add more. I just filled the screen, but anywhere someone could save money, like if you're picking between 2 places and one's like, well, hey, I can save you a few bucks, you're probably going to check that place out, right? Especially
yeah.
if you're looking at new restaurants, new fast food. Like if I'm going to try out a new like quick serve restaurant, usually deals will drive me to that. Like, oh, I'll try out this new place. It's close and they've got an offer. I'm going to give it a go, right?
Yep.
So that's another thing. If you yell from the rooftops that you can save people money, don't just put it on your site. Just don't put a post here, put it everywhere. Let people know.
Especially if you can validate that you have like quality
Yeah,
work and services or products, and people feel like there's 2 things they can choose between, they're gonna go for the one that has a good deal.
exactly. So just we already talked about this. I won't, this was the question we had in the beginning, but the recommendation here is really find out what's most important to your customers. Talk to your customers, talk to your friends and family. I think if we're all honest, we know why people select our business, right? Lean into those things, give people a reason to choose you over the others. So moving on, Casey, measuring success, brand versus.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take us into a little bit of a different topic here, around measuring the success when we're talking about brand and non-brand demand and traffic that you're receiving. There are a lot of different ways that we can break out like terms driving traffic to our business. We're able to see it through Google Business Profiles API and kind of divvy out our terms that way. On our website, we're able to see it through Google Search Console and divvy things out that way. There's also a lot of different third-party tools, yada, yada, things like that, right? And so what happens a lot when we're kind of analyzing the traffic that we're receiving between these 2 different query types is we may notice that, either your overall traffic is up or down, and then you see that maybe brand or non-brand is driving it. And so a lot of times we see maybe our non-brand performance is looking absolutely spectacular, but then you see your brand terms are suffering. And so in SEO, you kind of look at that and it's like, whose responsibility actually is that? What can I actually do if my brand is just not helping me get the traffic that it once did? How much can I actually influence? And how much of that is really the responsibility of my cross-functional partners internally? And I wanted to take a peek at that. So if we jump to the next slide, so, brand itself relies a lot on outside influence, quite frankly. That is not just, when I say outside influence, I mean not just the SEO manager trying to get traffic to the website. It's influenced highly by any type of like media spots. So if there are commercials or sponsorships or big things that your marketing department, not just your digital marketing department, are trying to get behind, that is going to directly impact the type of demand that is created for you to appear in search. As well as like text and email campaigns, anything that your PR org is doing, anything that they're partnering with, even at like the local blog level. Then obviously overarching like promotions and sales and big decisions that are made about your brand and how it functions all impact how you appear in brand search. Now, of course, they impact non-brand to some degree, but I think when we look at the responsibility, when it comes to brand, it's really hard for SEOs to be held responsible when it comes to your brand getting the traffic. Now, there are roles that SEOs play, like making sure that your site is technically efficient, that you have the SEO efforts at play, that your site is running well, things like that. Making sure your homepage is well optimized for the things that you need your brand associated with and you want it to appear for. And that's what I mean by brand association optimization. So making sure that, God, I always use this reference. I used to work at Dick's Sporting Goods, making sure that Dick's Sporting Goods shows up associated with workout equipment. Maybe I optimize my homepage or subsequent pages so that that associated optimization kind of helps my brand out there as well. But the big thing that I say in so many customer meetings, and things that I said even in my past life working for a single brand, we can't create demand that doesn't exist. So on the next slide, I think it's really important to highlight that. That goes for both brand and non-brand. If the demand doesn't exist, SEOs can't force traffic to increase. If customers aren't searching for products, services, or your brand, if they don't feel the need to go after it anymore, you can't just increase your traffic anyways because you have really good SEO. Monitoring that trend can be really crucial to understanding why your performance looks the way it does. We use Google Trends all the time to understand if that kind of volume of demand is increasing or decreasing. SEO really gets tied up when it comes to that because we're not necessarily a demand gen channel. You have to have customers interested in searching for either you, your brand, or the services that you offer in order to show up where they are. Oh, do you have an example of how to use Google Trends? Excellent question. Honestly, Mike and I use Google Trends almost every day in our lives. And the way that I typically use it, and Mike, feel free to chime in, if I'm looking at shifts around customers' keyword terms, and maybe I do notice that they are getting significantly less impressions for their branded term, the first place my mind goes is, ooh, people might not be looking for your brand anymore. You probably have a demand problem. And then I'll go to Google Trends, I'll type in their brand name, and I usually set the date range to like the past 3 years, 4 years, just to get a good frame of reference. And almost all of the time when we notice traffic down as a result of that, we see a decline in that brand demand. Actually, one of the biggest anecdotes I have is around, working in the athletic industry in my last job. Football as like a trend and what parents are signing their kids up for anymore is down. It's just there aren't as many registrations. There isn't as many parents willing to sign their kids up for football anymore, right? So as an SEO, it didn't matter if I ranked position 1. My traffic was not going to increase. It just wasn't because the consumer demand trend was down. So that's hopefully maybe a good example. Mike, go ahead.
It's also a really good reason to pair things like Google Trends and other insights that you're looking at with a rank tracking tool, right? Because you can see if you're still ranking, let's say #1 for something, but you're seeing traffic going down, you know that you're still ranking, whether one person searching for it or a million, you're ranking for it.
Yep.
And that is another way, yeah, to help track that.
Absolutely. So just a couple little final thoughts on this piece. So although we can't create demand, there are a few things we can try creatively to generate awareness and try to get a little bit of demand gen. Sorry, I did see, can anyone access Google Trends? Yes, it is a open source. Just type in Google Trends and anybody can use it. But again, there are a couple things that we can try to help generate demand in SEO. The first one is a strategic internal linking strategy. So what I mean there is if you have pages that get a lot of traffic and you want to bring awareness to the fact that your business also carries these other products over here, or we also offer these services over here, you want to consider a really good internal linking strategy on the pages and on the content that is getting a lot of traffic to say like, oh, interested in more? We also offer blah, blah, blah. And then linking to that associated page, because it will help both the consumers who are on those pages see and kind of recall that awareness. It helps crawlers to recognize that that's something that you have authority for. Internal linking is so crazy important. And then the other thing too is maybe like low traffic, but high important terms to meta elements. So this is what I was talking about earlier with kind of like crossover optimization. So we do this a lot, honestly, in store pages and in local landing pages when we optimize title tags or meta descriptions. You know, if you are a telecommunications provider and you also sell cell phones, and you also have like fiber internet or whatever it is, right? You might want your title tag to, you know, inject some of those things so that people are aware, like, oh, they're going to have the new iPhone that's launching, or they have fiber internet now in my area, or, you know, things like that, to kind of help bring that demand and awareness to what you already offer. So those are just kind of some little tricks. But again, the number one responsibility of the SEO organization in any business is to meet demand where it already exists, to make sure that where people are searching, you're appearing. And you have to just be the best result for your customers where they're conducting that search. So that's my spiel.
That's great. And that actually goes back, be the best result, because now when you do show up, you want to get picked, right? And so that kind of loops back to our last topic. Cool. So we have about 10 minutes left or a little over. So we'll go through the industry news rather quickly, but there are definitely some interesting things going on.
Yeah, so this first one, Search Labs is expanding on their Ask For Me experiment. We've definitely covered this before, but prior it was only happening in, what was it, auto, and what was the other one, Mike? I think you
Oh, it was auto services, nail salons, and they
nail
expanded it
salons.
last month to a couple more: car detailing, pet grooming, phone repair. But now it's just blown up. I went on there the other day. I was actually doing a search, not even looking for this, and this came up. I can't remember exactly what I was searching for, but if your business is in any of these categories, you may be getting calls from Google. I tried to find someone who's recorded one of those robot voices that call you, AI voices. I have not been able to find one yet. If anyone gets one, please let us know. I'd love to know what kind of message you are getting.
What it here, like, I think a big thing there too is don't mistake it for spam. And because it might be a really good way to get additional leads.
Exactly.
So
All right, moving on. So this is interesting. We've been talking about AI a lot over the past couple of weeks. Not a lot of data on it. I think we even mentioned then. But Growth Memo recently published a comprehensive look at the first ever UX study on this. If you get this deck afterwards, there's a link down to the full study. It's huge. But some of the key findings that I thought were really interesting are users skim over most of the AI overviews. They don't really go through it all, but that's not surprising. Most people don't go to the bottom of the page in regular organic results. Click-through rates are low, so only 7.5% of searches clicked on a citation in desktop, higher on mobile. Social proof matters. People, when they leave the SERP, they often navigate to other sites like Reddit, YouTube, or forums for social proof. And most people actually trust AIOs. I know there's a lot of messaging out there from the SEO community on how terrible AIOs are, but a lot of those are based on questions that are really weird and awkward and I feel like are almost trying to make the AIO come up with a bad answer.
yep.
But when people are truly looking for something in earnest, it seems like AIOs are actually giving them good answers and people are trusting them. And it might be this proof that comes in there, the links that go out. I tend to look at those as well. So I thought this was really interesting. And they did this study similarly to what Near Media did, with their customer behavior studies, where they filmed people doing tasks and asked them questions about that to see what they did. So definitely, I highly recommend checking out the full study. Can't fit it on a slide, probably spend an hour talking about it, but these are some of just the highlights that I think are just really good to know.
Yep. We got a question. What is SERP again? SERP stands for Search Engine Results Page.
Yes. So when you're on desktop or on mobile and you do just a regular search, not maps, what you get is the search engine result.
Yep. This one I'm so excited for, even though I'm hesitantly excited because who knows what it's actually going to look like. But Google did confirm that we are going to get support for AI mode in Google Search Console. It will be consistent of both AI mode and AI overview, so it's probably going to be a bit inflated. I really wish they were breaking it out because I do feel like there's different intent and behaviors, but we will be able to see some traffic insights for AI mode and AI overviews in Google Search Console, which I think is so exciting. It's kind of this unanswered question, right? Right now we can see traffic and like Google Analytics, things like that, if it's tied directly to your website. But I think this is going to be really insightful, especially at the query level, where we're maybe going to get some great insights into how customers are searching in AI and how much it differs from how they search in traditional search results. Because I know I search totally different on those two platforms.
It would also be interesting to see where or how people are searching. I read an article, which I didn't have time to really write much up on, might explore later, where there was a study and it looked at like a majority of AI searches happening on desktop right now, very little bit on mobile, which meaning that a lot of the AI search and usage may be more around research, business purposes, things like that. So when it comes to, I need to go somewhere, like where I'm on mobile, not as much of it may be happening on AI in AI versions and modes and things like that. So something to, hopefully this will give us more insight into, right? Because we can see where traffic is coming from.
Yeah.
So this is another one that's interesting. So businesses can now track how many customers are interacting with that new chat CTA on business profiles. So last June, or actually more than a year ago, Google discontinued their old Google Chat model that was their own chat module, I guess. And they replaced it last June with giving the businesses the ability to add either a text SMS number or WhatsApp to message. We've talked about a month or two ago, Google added that via API. Well, now Google is giving us insights into that. So chat clicks has been added to what Google actually calls, I don't think I realized this, they interactions tracking. It's not actions tracking, it's interactions tracking, as Google calls it. With calls and directions and web clips, so you can now see chat clicks. I will say it only appears if you have it enabled. So whether you have a text or WhatsApp contact info in your profile, if you don't, then that won't show up. So it's always good to see more analytics showing up.
And man, this one, I feel like if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me, like, do I still need to care about Q&A? Even like some of our account managers have been like, do I still need to talk to customers about this? Like, yes, listen, the Google Q&A, it's been messy to say the least. The API is messy. It's broken every other day. And Google just, it's very frustrating for both us and you as the customer, right? But I don't think it's dead. I think us talking about it going away is very exaggerated. And so one of the reasons for this is we're actually seeing like Google ask questions. So now Google is inserting questions into Q&A that it wants either customers to answer or businesses to answer. And so if you're not answering them, they are now kind of appearing in your search results in your business listings against your will. So you're not just getting it from customers anymore, asking questions and answering questions. You're getting Google asking Google questions about your business in your business listings. So this is going to continue to be an important place to pay attention to. But I will say it is going to be challenging because to our knowledge, Google's API has not really been fixed here. And we've seen instances where customers are trying to respond to Q&A via API and it fails, or it only hits maybe like 50% of the locations that you were trying to send the answer to. So a really frustrating update from Google, I will say.
And I'm wondering too if some of these questions are coming from when attributes aren't marked. Because if you notice, they are about that. What delivery options are available? What type of dietary accommodations? These are in attributes. So this is the restaurant, obviously.
That's a really good call out.
Yeah, so I'm just realizing this now. I want to go back and check and see if those locations have those things marked. So it is very interesting. I feel like Google's trying to fill things out. And if Google's asking it, I would absolutely answer it because Google wants to know the answer to that. So I would think answering those are definitely give some benefit in some way.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, this one's interesting. The Meta trial, I know this isn't specifically about Google, but since we're talking about engagement on social and what effect that has in search, for those who don't know, there's an ongoing court case with the FTC that Meta is involved in. They've provided a lot of data as evidence. And one of the things that they provided was this, it's kind of fuzzy because again, I'm probably copied, I don't know how many times, but it's figure one, something that was some sort of something put into evidence. But what it shows is on Instagram and Facebook, video is now the primary driver of organic engagement. So this little yellow line is video. The red line is news feed. The bluish line is other. And stories never got off the ground. That's that one that's on the bottom there. But obviously video more important. And also users are increasingly preferring private messages, sending 63 times more direct messages compared to public posts. So people aren't kind of just putting information out there and talking back and forth. They're doing a lot more privately. So just recommended action here. It's time to shift towards video first strategies, just across the board. Google has even said they want to, highlight those a lot more. This is the direction you need to start thinking forward about this. If you're not there, think about how you need to get there. This is a great way to, again, behind the scenes, product demonstrations, testimonials, all these things that provide more information about your business and also lead to conversion. I know we're down to the last 3 minutes. Just caught in the wild really quick. I noticed check wait time is appearing for businesses where they say they accept reservations, but they don't actually have a reservation link. This was interesting. I just found it in Google Maps just on desktop. And it seems to be part of this know before you go, which we've seen popping up a lot in a lot of Google things that are starting to appear in features. So it seems to be more of this trying to help customers get to where they need to go.
My husband actually criticized me because I am the kind of person that will call ahead if I'm trying to just pop in somewhere and be like, what's the wait look like right now? Like, especially if they don't take reservations. I am that annoying customer.
Oh.
And he looks at me and he's like, you used to be a server. Like, that's just so distracting and frustrating. Whatever. So now Google will do it for me. That's fantastic.
Exactly. And then one more. Noticed this yesterday. I don't know what this means. It could mean Google is trying not to show preference, but I noticed at times, I was able to repeat it, sponsored listings in the local pack and the map pack were appearing at the bottom instead of on the top. Don't know what that means. Just something I noticed yesterday. I thought was interesting. And then lastly, something I'll probably talk about a little more. Google is doing a lot more curated kind of results in the SERP here. This is a restaurant search. I literally just looked at restaurants in Long Beach. And if you get back to the beginning, it actually starts with top rated restaurants. And as you go down below, you start to see things like restaurants with a view, family friendly restaurants, restaurants near the LA Pride Festival. So what this shows me is they're curated local results, like additional things that people are searching for. And this can give really great insights into what people are searching for and provide further opportunities for optimization. If you're in Long Beach and you see people are looking for waterfront dining, restaurants with outdoor seating, and you have that, you want to make sure you're leaning into it, and Google gets that. Get the pictures out there, get it on your description and your page, whatever that might be. Pay attention to what Google's doing. It's been changing a lot. So we are at the end, right on time. I again want to thank those who stayed with us over the last year and who just joined us. Again, we will put this out afterwards. Am I missing anything, Casey?
I don't think so. I see our marketing friends commented, thanks for joining today. We do have a G2, if you're a current customer, you can get a $25 gift card. Please leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. But we will see you all next month.
Thank you so much. Take care.